She stormed across the street the moment I pulled my truck into the driveway. Her heels clicked like gunshots on the pavement as she waved a stack of papers in the air. "You can't live here! This is HOA property!" she screamed, her voice sharp enough to make a couple of neighbors peek from behind their curtains. I looked around calmly. My house. My land. Not a single sign of her HOA anywhere near it. "Karen," I said slowly, "this house is outside your HOA. You don't own me." Her face turned red, like she'd just been slapped. She shoved the papers toward me. "I'm president of this community. You will follow my rules." I glanced at the papers. Fake HOA letters, printed off some cheap template. She'd even tried to put her own signature at the bottom, like that gave her authority. Inside my pocket, my phone was already recording. "Interesting," I murmured, loud enough for her to hear. "You're putting fake legal notices on private property?" That rattled her. She froze for a second, then doubled down, screaming louder. "If you don't leave, I'll call the cops and have you dragged out of here." That was when I smiled, because the truth was, I had a little secret she didn't know yet. Karen dialed her phone with shaking fingers, exaggerating every motion so the neighbors could see. "Yes, officer, come quick. A trespasser just moved into our neighborhood." She shot me a smug look, whispering loud enough for me to hear, "You're done." I leaned against my truck, calm as ever, while she paced the sidewalk like a queen waiting for her soldiers. Within minutes, a squad car pulled up, lights flashing. 2 officers stepped out, hands resting on their belts. Karen ran toward them, pointing at me like she'd caught a criminal. "That man! He broke into this house! Arrest him right now!" The officers turned to me, but before they could speak, I pulled a folder from the passenger seat and held it out. "Deed and closing documents. I legally bought this property last week, not in her HOA." One of the officers skimmed the papers, nodding slowly. Karen's smile cracked. "He's lying! He forged those papers! He doesn't belong here!" The taller cop looked unimpressed. "Ma'am, these are official county documents. Looks pretty legitimate to me." Her face twisted, but instead of backing down, she tried a different trick. She put on a pitiful voice. "He's dangerous! Look at him! He threatened me!" That was her mistake, because right then I clicked my phone screen and showed the officer the recording. Every word she just yelled, every fake notice, every threat. The cop's expressions changed instantly, and for the first time, Karen realized this wasn't going the way she planned. Her hands flew to her mouth when she saw the officer's jaw tighten. "Ma'am," he said firmly, "you just admitted on camera that you faked HOA authority and filed a false police call. That's a serious offense." Karen's voice shot up an octave. No, you don't understand. I am the authority here. Everyone knows I run this street. If people like him move in, the whole neighborhood will collapse." She pointed at me again, desperate, her words spilling out like venom. "He's not one of us. He shouldn't be here." The neighbors, who had been hiding before, were now gathering at the edges of their lawns, whispering, recording on their phones. A teenage boy shouted, "Lady, that's not even HOA property." Laughter rippled through the small crowd, and Karen's face burned crimson. The second officer stepped forward, calm but cold. "Ma'am, this house isn't under HOA jurisdiction. You knew that. You also tried to mislead law enforcement, which could put you in jail tonight. Do you want to keep talking, or do you want a lawyer?" She stuttered, eyes darting around for support, but not one neighbor stepped in to defend her. In fact, one man shouted, "Finally! Someone shut her down!" Cameras kept rolling, and I could feel the tide turning in my favor. I crossed my arms, leaning back slightly, and let the silence stretch. Because the truth was, Karen had no idea who she had just picked a fight with. Karen's glare drilled into me as if she could still claw her way out of the hole she'd dug. "This isn't over," she hissed, her voice cracking. "People like you don't belong in my neighborhood. I stepped closer, my voice steady but low enough to make her lean in. Funny thing, Karen, this isn't your neighborhood, and you really should have done your homework before trying this stunt. Her eyes flickered, a flicker of doubt finally breaking through. The taller officer raised a brow. What does he mean by that? I reached into my truck again, this time pulling out another folder, thicker, official county seal embossed on the front. I handed it over. Not only do I own this house, but I also bought the vacant lot behind her HOA last month, which means half the access road her people use, it runs across my land now. The crowd gasped. Karen froze like she'd just been hit by lightning. She shook her head violently. No, that's impossible. You can't. The officer flipped through the paperwork, then looked at me with a faint smirk. Looks like airtight. Deeds are clean. Plat map signed off by the county. Ma'am, he doesn't just belong here. He owns part of your access. Karen's mouth opened and closed, but no sound came out. The neighbors burst into murmurs, some even clapping. The teenage boy yelled again, "Guess you're not the boss anymore, Karen." I could see her trying to
Karen's face twisted, and for a second I thought she might actually lunge at me. Instead, she stomped her heels into the pavement and shrieked, "This is fraud! I'll take you to court! I'll make sure you lose everything!" The officer folded his arms. "Ma'am, you've already lied to law enforcement. If you keep digging, you'll only bury yourself deeper." His partner added, "And with half the neighborhood recording, I'd suggest you walk away before this goes viral." But Karen wasn't the type to back down gracefully. She spun to the crowd, trying to rally support. "He's going to ruin our community! Don't you see? He's dangerous!" Silence. Not a single neighbor agreed. In fact, one older woman, her voice trembling with years of bottled-up frustration, spoke up. "Karen, you're the danger. You've bullied us all for years. Maybe it's time someone finally stood up to you." A wave of murmurs and nods followed. Karen's mouth fell open, betrayed by the very people she claimed to represent. I took a step forward, locking eyes with her. "You thought you could scare me off with fake notices and lies, but you picked the wrong neighbor. I don't scare easy, and I don't lose." Her hands shook as she tried to clutch her papers, but they slipped to the ground, scattering across the sidewalk like scraps of her fake authority. The officers didn't move to help her, the neighbors didn't either. For the first time, Karen looked small, cornered, powerless, and utterly exposed. And still, she had no idea. I hadn't even played my biggest card yet. Karen bent down to grab her scattered papers, but the wind caught one and blew it straight into a neighbor's yard. The teenage boy scooped it up, read it aloud, and laughed. "This isn't even real legal stuff. It's from a free template website." The crowd roared, phones pointed at Karen like spotlights on a criminal on stage. Her voice cracked as she shouted, "Stop filming, all of you! Put those phones away or I'll fine you!" That's when the laughter hit harder. A man in the back yelled, "Fine us with what, Karen? Monopoly money?" Even the officers couldn't hide their smirks. I pulled out my phone again, scrolling to a file I'd been saving for just this kind of moment. With one tap, the screen lit up, showing a series of high-definition clips. Karen standing on my porch the night before, taping those fake HOA notices to my door. Karen screaming at another neighbor, threatening to have their car towed for lowering property values. Karen bragging to someone on the phone, "They'll never know I don't actually have the authority." The crowd gasped, some covering their mouths, others whispering, "She's finished." The officers leaned in, and I could see the decision in their eyes before they even spoke. "Ma'am, you're under investigation for harassment, falsifying documents, and misuse of emergency services." Karen's knees buckled. "No, no, no! You can't do this to me! I run this street!" I looked her dead in the eye, calm and unshaken. Not anymore. The cuffs clicked shut around her wrists, and the neighborhood erupted, some cheering, some just sighing with relief, like a storm had finally passed. But deep inside, I knew this wasn't just about a house. It was about drawing a line Karen could never cross again. And I made sure she'd never forget it.
I watched them lead her away while the whole street stared, some faces soft with relief, some still shocked. But I wasn't done. I handed the lead officer a second sealed folder. I used to prosecute neighborhood fraud cases before I retired, and I kept copies of everything Karen had done, plus the title to the access road and the chain of messages where she admitted it. He nodded, because he knew I'd done this work before. The DA's office called within an hour. Within days, the county fined her, she lost her fake community manager job, and a civil suit for harassment and false reporting was filed with my name on it. Neighbors started knocking, apologizing, bringing casseroles, some eyes still wet. I put up a small plaque by my gate. This is private property. Respect it. But more than that, I drove home the point at the block gathering when I spoke quietly, looking them all in the eye. I fought for this country so my kids could sleep safe in their own houses. Nobody, no title, no loud voice, gets to tell you you don't belong on your own land. That line stuck. It spread online. Karen's empire crumbled, and the neighborhood finally learned that real authority comes from law and decency, not shouting and fake papers. Weeks later, the neighborhood felt like a different place. Kids were riding bikes again without Karen chasing them for noise violations. Neighbors were planting gardens without threats of fines. And people waved when I pulled into my driveway instead of hiding behind curtains. For the first time, this street actually felt like a community. Karen, though, she didn't vanish quietly. She tried to file appeals, sent angry letters from her lawyer, even attempted to start a petition to kick me out. But every time, my paperwork, my recordings, and the county records crushed her efforts before they could get off the ground. The more she fought, the more foolish she looked. One evening, I was grilling in the backyard when the same older woman who'd spoken up against her walked over with a smile. "You don't know what you've done for us. She had us living in fear for years. Now we can finally breathe." I nodded, flipping a burger. All I did was stand my ground. Sometimes that's all it takes. But the truth was, I hadn't just defended my home. I'd sent a message. And when the story hit social media, that message spread like wildfire. No HOA bully can take what you legally own. Stand your ground, and the law will stand with you. Karen became the cautionary tale everyone whispered about, and I was the neighbor who proved her kingdom of fake rules could fall in a single day. And as I sat back watching my kids run across the yard under the setting sun, one thought stayed with me. Simple, strong, unshakable. Freedom means no one gets to tell you that you don't belong on your own land.